Ida B, Chapter 17. One night at dinner a couple of weeks later, Daddy told me, "We've sold the lots, Ida B, to one family, and they're going to keep some of the trees. Maybe they'll have kids your age, baby," added Mama, who seemed to be doing better since she started her new treatments. But it was hard to tell since I was avoiding eye contact and word contact with both of those particular people. "Wouldn't it be great to have friends just down the road?" "Great," I said, in that way I had of talking then, a way that used words but didn't tell anybody anything. That Saturday, the builders brought a bulldozer and a backhoe out to the land to clear part of the orchard and start digging the foundation of those people's house. Those people I didn't even know, but I knew they didn't belong here. Rufus and I walked to the end of the valley, and we sat in the woods and watched for a while. I squinted, my eyes real tight this time, into the thinnest, meanest slits possible, and sent telepathic messages to the workers like, "Get away! You're at the wrong address." But as soon as they started cutting down the trees and plowing up the roots, my stomach got sick, and my legs and arms got wobbly, and my head felt dizzy. I had to get up and run home with Rufus looking at me, smiling and slobbering like he thought I was playing with him. It was all I could do to get to my room, lie down on the bed, and cover my ears with my pillow so I couldn't hear the cracking of the trunks and the grind of the machinery. I'm sorry," I said in my head over and over again. When all of those terrible sounds finally stopped, I kept lying there, just like that, for a long time, sick and tired and numb. And then my new heart came up with a plan. Now, up until that moment, ever since the day in the barn with Daddy, just about the only thing I cared about was putting together a plan to save me and my valley. But for all my wishing and hoping and sending out 10 different kinds of prayers for a good one, not a single decent plan came out of me. It was as if all of the interesting ideas and exciting projects that had been running around my head forever had just evaporated. Because those first few weeks I went back to school, the only thing left in any part of me was unhappiness. It was the quiet kind, too, that doesn't do much and says even less. Every afternoon I'd come home, finish my homework, eat dinner, wash dishes, then sit in the big chair and do nothing. "Ida B, what are you doing?" Daddy would ask. "Nothing," I'd say, not bothering to muster the energy to say the word right. "Well, why don't you find something to do?" he'd tell me in a voice that didn't sound like merely a suggestion. So I'd go and sit on the porch with Lulu on my lap, petting her but not paying any mind. So my hand was thumping on the top of her head. She'd get tired of that and give me a little bite to let me know that I was not giving her the attention she deserved, jump down and walk away with her indignant tail up in the air as a final warning. Then I'd sit by myself, looking but not seeing, listening but not hearing. Daddy would walk by on his way to the barn and say, "Ida B, stop moping and find something to do." And I'd pick my body up and try to find somewhere else to go. I couldn't go to the orchard. The apple trees wouldn't have anything to do with me, and they were always whispering things to each other like, "Did you hear about Philomena? They cut her down, poor thing. Who will be next? What will those people do next?" they wondered. If I could, I'd pull up my roots and move to the other side of the mountain. I would. This place is falling apart, the ones who didn't want to seem afraid would say. But the worst was the sounds they made in the evening. Oh, and oh, they moaned as the wind and their branches danced together in mourning, and their leaves waved goodbye to the spirits of their friends. I stayed away, not because they ignored me, though, but because I was afraid they would eventually speak to me. I was afraid they would ask me, "Why didn't you help us, Ida B? Why didn't you protect us?" But I didn't have an answer, except that I felt like I'd been cut down too. So I'd sit up on the side of the mountain, grateful the stars were so far away you could barely hear their voices. Far away from the orchard and the brook and the old tree, until Daddy would call, "Ida B, time to come in." Then I'd go home, get into bed, and do the same thing all over again the next day. But now my heart had given me a plan. I had a mission, a purpose, and many things to do. I'd rush through my homework and lock myself in my room till dinner, then hurry through dishes and disappear till the next morning. I was working toward nothing less than righting of wrongs, turning evil to good, and stopping the craziness that was steadily and surely taking over my valley. I was Ida B, superhero deluxe, friend of the downtrodden, foe of cancer, meanness, mindless destruction, and traditional schooling. I drew a symbol for myself with a mountain in the background, and in the foreground were the remains of Ernest B. Lawson Elementary School. It was just a pile of rubble, and the only way you could tell what had been there was you could still put together some of the words from its also decimated sign. I was suspended just above the heap of concrete moments after its destruction. My super assistant, Rufus, had cleared every man, woman, and child out of that building. In the next instant, I had flown straight down from heaven and, with one fist in front of me, rammed into the cupola of the school. With that single perfectly placed strike, I had pulverized the entire place. I was wearing purple pants, a purple shirt, and purple socks and sneakers. My braids were streaming behind me, and I was smiling really big, too. All around the school were apple trees, and all of the kids were safe in their branches, with Rufus eating pie. The brook flowed past the ruins of that school, and in it were all of the teachers, the principal, and the secretary, too, wearing life preservers on their way to Canada. It was a tremendous drawing. I put it on the back of my door, and I didn't even try to hide it. Next, I got on with the part to scare away the new people. I made signs, posters, and notices in paint, marker, and crayon. In our encyclopedia, I searched the most dangerous and deadly things in the universe, and I brought them into our valley. Beware of poisonous snakes, one poster proclaimed, and there were pictures of some rattlesnakes, a cobra, and a boa constrictor squeezing the life out of a terrified woman whose eyes were popping out of her head because of the pressure. At the bottom was a man with 2 bloody fang marks on his ankle, whose life had obviously ended in agony. Tarantula spotted here, announced another with the biggest, hairiest black spider standing behind the words, ready to grab you in its humongous pinchers. Tornadoes touchdown weekly, read a third with a picture of a twister carrying a cute little house, a mom, a dad, and 2 screaming children, plus their dog off to who knows where. Danger. Oh, I don't remember how to say that. Tsetse, some kind of fly. Flies. Ferocious, ravenous, giant malamute escaped from pet store and spotted in vicinity. Plague of locusts expected this year, warned some of the others with very descriptive pictures. I knew that some of these things would never occur where we lived, but I was hoping our new neighbors weren't so well educated. I used lots of big words to make them sound true, and I signed every one of them with the police chief's name, Vernon Q. Highwater. They were masterpieces of terror. When I had about 40 of them done, I took my flyers to the building side of the new house, and I posted them everywhere. On the telephone poles by the road, on the trees that remained on the site, on the concrete of the foundation. I even taped them right to the frame that was already up. And I started collecting things and leaving them as presents in their basement. Snakes, spiders, grubs, and slugs. This place was going to sound so bad and scary and look so disgusting, they'd want to stay in their house in town and never come live out here. They'd give the land back to Daddy just so they wouldn't have to worry about an outbreak of bubonic plague or orchard inhabiting alligators again.